All right, so it's been 1 month since I bought this Tesla used 21 Tesla Model Y long range all-wheel drive. And if you watch my previous video, you'll know that I was like more impressed than I thought I would be with the experience, and that I have had a decent amount of experience with a lot of EVs. I've had some really good experiences with the car, and some not so good experiences, some questionable, quirky experiences, some, well, let's just talk about it. The first thing that a lot of people were asking me about was full self-driving. While this is a hardware 3 car, I did purchase a month's worth of full self-drive. I've taken a couple of trips, and I'm going to drive around, or the car is going to drive around, and we're just going to talk a little bit more about what the experience has been like. So let's go ahead and get going. Once again, I went ahead and did all this without really doing any research. I just kind of bought the full self-drive and then thought to myself, okay, will I be able to navigate with the full self-drive? Let's go.
Now turn right onto 16.
Does it have to tell itself out loud where it's going? That's a question that I have. One thing I can say with the full self-drive is that it has been a lot smoother
Now turn left onto
and a lot more competent and enjoyable than I thought it would be when just by the comments that I'd seen about full self-drive in a hardware 3 car. I've found it to really be able to handle the majority of everything extremely well. It's pulling out in traffic. It's looking at a car that's in the other lane, but it realizes that there's 2 lanes here, so we're on our way. The ride is still a little stiff, but I don't necessarily mind that, except when you're on bad roads, and, you know, that's just how it is. The roads are bad. I did take 2 trips to Des Moines. That's about a 2+ hour drive from where I am, and I did it once on my own. I did it with auto steer, driving myself the first time I did the whole thing, and then I did it with full self-drive. Now, that was last week, and again, that was when I bought full self-drive. I had not used full self-drive at all. I'd been in one car that was using full self-drive for about 10 minutes. We're going to get onto the highway here, and I'm sure it'll be fine.
28th Street Northeast.
The one thing that's been really impressive to me about full self-drive is how natural the driving experience actually feels. In some ways, maybe in a lot of ways, depending on how I'm driving that day, it feels really a lot smoother than I would be driving. I have it on standard, not hurry or chill or anything like that. I don't need to hurry, and I'm not necessarily needing to chill either. I will try those out at some point just to see really what they're all about. Now, one thing I didn't notice with full self-drive when I first got it, it really liked to go over the speed limit, which it's doing right now. We're in a 55 and it's going 65. So let's scroll it down a little bit and we'll keep it here at maybe chill would be less of a problem. I'm doing 58 and a 55, and this is a 3-way highway that goes straight through the city of Cedar Rapids, and generally people drive like idiots on this road. So it's not the easiest road or the most fun road to drive on, but seems to be handling it pretty well. This is something that I was thinking about as I let it drive me home from the grocery store, which is less than a mile away from my house yesterday. And maybe this is me because I don't have to go anywhere for my job. I work from home. And even if I did, usually in a place like Iowa, unless you work in another town, Iowa's the kind of place where no matter where you are, everything is 15 minutes from where you are. So I can't see myself really paying $99 a month for full self-drive when everything is 15 minutes away. One thing that Tesla is going to have to decide as they move forward with full self-drive, obviously now being a viable product, that Tesla wants full self-drive to be like the way people drive this car, or at least like an option for people to drive this car this way. Full self, they're putting all this focus on it, and now they're coming out with the Cybercab and all those kinds of things, especially when unsupervised full self-drive comes out. They want people to drive this car that way. If you do the math for someone like me, now I bought this car used for about $19-something thousand, and $19,000 plus $100 a month. I mean, if I was driving a V6 or V8 regular auto gasoline vehicle, I wouldn't spend $95 a month in gas. If I drove a Prius, let's say, there's no way I would spend $95 a month. And so paying $99 a month for full self-drive for somebody like me, I mean, that's $1,200. Say I own this car for 3 years. So we're talking about $3,600. That's a full third of what I paid for the car, which doesn't make any sense when you're buying a car used. All right, so it did a good job there. We just went through a town, and the speed limit went down from 55 down to 35 down to 30, which I would always forget about and blow through the town at like 45 at least. And now we're back up to 49 after we've left the town. We've got Iowa farmland and people on bikes and all those kinds of things. I hadn't taken any kind of like longer trip. I've had to use the Supercharger network more and have gotten more familiar with it. And I can compare it to what the charging network is for something like, if you want to say it's CCS chargers around this area. And that comparison is not favorable for the CCS automobiles. Taking a trip in my Equinox EV or taking a trip in any of the other EVs that I've driven, the ID4, the Aria, anything like that, between decent-sized towns, CCS chargers are few and far between, and they are not guaranteed to actually be functional. One time, I drove my Equinox from Cedar Rapids to Des Moines. After I got to Des Moines and I did my stuff, I needed to come home. I needed to find a charger. And I shit you not, I drove around for almost an hour to 5 different charging stations that weren't marked as non-functional on any app that I had. And I couldn't find one that worked. For a while, there were a bunch of different companies that operated CCS chargers in this area. But at the time that I was up there, and this was maybe like 6 months ago, it seemed like the local energy conglomerate was buying up some of these chargers, and some of them were being upgraded, some of them were not functional, etc. And I finally found one single charger in like 20 minutes outside of Des Moines at this point, in the parking lot of a Fairway grocery store. This is something that's impressed me, by the way. The FSD taking care of these roundabouts. Like they started putting these in maybe like 8-10 years ago, and now there's just like a ton of them. And I still can barely navigate the roundabout. I'm better than I used to be because there are more of them, but I generally hate them. And FSD in this Hardware 3 car has done a good job of navigating every roundabout that it's come to so far. But anyway, I was at this Fairway. It was the only charger that I could find. And it took over an hour and 15 minutes to charge the car. And I just had to sit there. And until recently, you couldn't watch video in the Equinox. They've done an update recently that allows you to watch video and stuff. So I just had to sit there watching YouTube on my phone or reading or whatever I was doing. It was a long layover, let's call it. because that's what it really feels like when you have to stop for an hour. Oh, we're entering Lake McBride State Park. So beautiful Lake McBride State Park here in Johnson County, Iowa. There's trails here, there's bikes, there's, a lake, obviously. It's a very nice drive. I'm going to take us down here to the lake, and it's a beautiful day. I mean, it's 76 degrees. It's supposed to go up to 83 degrees today. And I just don't, how does that happen? It was seriously negative 12 degrees just days ago. Well, we got people playing in the parking lot, some soccer. I want to park. All right, we'll park over here. So let's see. Supercharging with the Tesla has been so much easier, so much better, so much more stress-free than it would be with any other EV that I've driven. The rest of the charging infrastructure for other EVs is nowhere near as customer-friendly, as convenient, as stress-free as a supercharger. Right? The hardest thing about going to the supercharger is usually you have to back in. As long as you're halfway decent at doing that, then you just plug in, it starts charging. You've got your credit card already attached to your Tesla account, and it just charges away. Now, this being Iowa, it's 75 degrees today. It was 60-something a couple of days ago. It's been nice for the past few days, but on Monday, it was freezing cold. Winter storm warnings happening all the way through Saturday and Sunday into Monday. And Monday morning, I had to take my boy to daycare, and I was parked outside. Now, in my last video, I complained about the door handles freezing, and people told me, hey, you can use the app to open the door. Nice to know. And I appreciated that. However, this time, the door handles weren't frozen. The doors were frozen. Literally frozen. I go to open the back right side, passenger side, to put my son in, and the door just won't open. And so then I go to the other passenger door, just won't open. I go to the trunk to see if I can open it up and we can crawl over there. Not opening. Trunk wasn't even actuating. I come around to the back door over on the driver's side, won't open. I mean, I can pull the handle. They're all three doors and the trunk were frozen shut. Luckily, maybe because I'd been out and driven the car the day before when it was still freezing, but I had still to drive, that door was open, or could be opened. What I had to do was climb over into the back seat, then tell my boy to climb in the driver's seat to get to the back seat. Then I had to strap him in from the opposite side of where I usually would strap him in, so on and so forth. It was something. And as much as I've said good things about the Tesla, I will say this. No other car that I have ever owned has had that happen. Ever. I've lived in cold climates my whole life. And most of the cars had handles that I could at least feel confident in grabbing the handle and putting some weight into it. But I do not have that confidence with the flush handles of this car. They seem like they would be ready to break off if I were to put any kind of weight on them. So again, there are some things that have been incredibly well thought through with this car, and then some things that just don't make any sense at all. And I criticized legacy automakers in the last video for not really embracing the design strategy or the design language of a more modern vehicle and kind of layering it over top of legacy features and stuff. The cold weather stuff has been the Achilles heel of this Tesla. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. Not only has there been issues with regular things like doors functioning, but there's the drop in range and there's all of that kind of stuff. I mean, when I got in the car to go to Des Moines and I was charged up to 90-something%, it said that I had 285 miles of range. But, and it was cold because it was last week, and it was cold last weekend. And it's a 130-mile drive. And I got to where I was going with about, like I said, 10, 13%, something like that. Same thing on the way home. I got home with less than 10%, but that's because I told it just to go home. It was late. I didn't want to stop and charge and all that. A lot of people in the comments of the last video were like, oh, wait until you try the 2026 Model Y. I haven't done that yet. I do want to try FSD in a hardware 4 car. I do want to drive the newer version of the Model Y. And there's a mall close to my house that actually has one Model Y in the middle of the mall on display. And they have one person who sort of stands there and tells people about the car. But then they have like a whole, like 8 or 10 cars parked in the parking lot out back that you can take out for a test drive. So maybe I'll do that, and I'll bring my cameras in and we'll just do the whole thing. So that's one thing that I do want to experience still. To the Elon thing. Now, I just saw a video clip yesterday of a Cybertruck capturing someone vandalizing the Cybertruck. And I think that there still is some hostility among some people for the role that Elon played in the beginning of last year. You can be for or against whoever you want and feel about it however you want. It is a concern. That whole situation did impact people's feelings about Tesla as a result of the CEO's actions. I have always thought that Elon was a narcissist and someone who liked to hear himself talk too much. And that was initially why I didn't really care for him. I thought that he would often make claims that he could not back up. He made claims about full self-drive. I mean, there's the famous, bulletproof window in the Cybertruck that the big steel ball smashed. To his credit, I mean, maybe it's him, maybe it's the company. They make fun of themselves. There are times when I feel like people are looking at me sideways because I'm driving this car. Sometimes you have to separate the product from the face of the company. And Henry Ford was a racist, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is a well-known and historically acknowledged racist of one of the worst stripes that you could possibly come across. It was a different time with different social mores and all that kind of stuff, but there it is. Volkswagen, I mean, the car company of the Nazis, right? But Volkswagen still exists. So you have to be able to do that to a certain extent. The audio system continues to be a super huge bright spot with this vehicle. I really, really enjoy the audio system. I really, really enjoy having functional apps on the car and not just being piped from my phone. The Equinox and other cars still don't do that as well as they should. So I appreciate that. I like sitting in the car and watching YouTube or whatever and waiting for somebody, or just like burning time when I'm charging or something like that. So that's all great. People ask me a bunch of questions in the comments. I want to sort of talk about those things. A lot of people in the comments were kind of giving me begrudging credit for being honest about how I felt, but being a big enough person to admit, that I was wrong about the car or whatever. And if you continue to watch this channel, you're going to always find that that's kind of how I operate. I'm not afraid to make people mad, and I don't really care if I do. Other questions: multiple owners have said that there's no way they could ever go back to a gas-powered car after driving an EV. And I've actually done that several times, gone back and forth, had an EV and then went to an ICE car and then, another EV, or I've had both. Right now I own the Equinox EV and this car, but I also have a Jeep Grand Cherokee L 2021 that I bought before I bought this. And I live in two worlds. I grew up in a rural area where trucks were a big part of the culture, and trucks are very practical, and I like the comfort of a large vehicle. So I still want that in my life. There's one thing I can say about driving a big vehicle is just kind of like, you're floating. It's a totally different kind of feel. It's in some ways relaxing. So I miss that about that. And finally, people were asking about, the experience with a high mileage vehicle like this. This car now has, let me take a look. This car's odometer is now at 101,511 miles. And there's not been a hiccup in terms of the functionality. There's not been any weirdness. The back camera still has water in it. Sometimes it looks okay, sometimes it doesn't. I bought a camera. The whole trunk latch and camera is in a single housing, so I basically had to take the whole thing out. So I got to take off the trim in the back hatch, and then get in there, a couple of Torx screws, and then I can replace that whole thing. It got cold again. I haven't had time to do it. The part was like $50, $45, something like that. So it's annoying to not be able to really see well out of the back camera. But other than that, the car has functioned as it should. And I don't think that you should worry about buying a high mileage Tesla. I don't think you should worry about buying a high mileage EV in general, because what we're discovering is that EVs, the battery pack's longevity is a lot more than what we expected. So I'm at 59% right now, and it says my mileage, because it's a nice warm sunny day, 82 degrees out right now, it says I've got 163 miles of range left. On a cold day, that would have been a lot less. So if I'm at 59, so that means that like I'm still over 300 miles of range on a good day. On a warm sunny day, getting over 300 miles of range in a car that has only 83% of its battery capacity left, then it's pretty clear that I could drive this car for as long as I wanted to. And, yes, there's little things that'll go wrong here and there, but not nearly as many things that will go wrong here and there as would go wrong in a gas-powered car, because there's just not as many moving parts. That doesn't mean you can ignore the maintenance. The last thing that I want to leave you with, which is maybe the stupidest thing about this car, the thing that I understand the least, is this. I've got it nice and placed in there. This is an iPhone 16 Pro Max. And I noticed when I first tried this that I put it in here, and you can see it's not charging. Now, but if you do this and put it in upside down, it charges. So I know that the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a newer phone, but I know that there were iPhone Max-sized phones in 2021 when this car was built. Why the charging coil is placed in such a stupid place, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me down in the comments. I figured I'd give you guys my report on about a month with the Tesla, having put it through its paces a little bit more than when I made my first video. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, subscribe. I do now have a Tesla referral link down in the description. So if you're thinking about buying a Tesla and you want to go through with it at some point, then you can use my link. You can use anybody's link, but I would appreciate it if you use mine. Thanks so much for hanging with me on this nice drive today. Once again, my name is Jason, and till the next time,